Good evening, Facebook family and friends. I'm Cathy Novicky, and this is day number 56 of my 90-day Facebook Lives. And I want to just shout out to my hairdresser, Marlene, that I put my hair up because, hi Jay, because I don't want you saying, "What are you thinking?" Don't worry, I'm getting in the shower right after this. So tonight, the title, as I'm sure you read, was "How Times Have Changed," and what I was thinking about was social media. Hi, Donna. Hope everything's okay. Social media for me was kind of like my children when I'd said, well, whatever happened to the Dewey Decimal System, you know? They look at me like, what? What is the Dewey Decimal System? Well, you know, social media, I'm still an infant when it comes to figuring out how to get around and what to do. And obviously, you can see that, you know, I've learned how to do this, but today is day 56 out of 90-day Facebook Lives. So I've had a little practice, and I do tend to learn things when I'm doing something repeatedly every single day. So I can be taught, yes. But it was November of 2002 when I first logged on to Facebook Live. And a lot of comments that I got from coworkers were, "Oh, it's good to see you on Facebook. Welcome to, you know, this century," or, you know, snide little comments like that. And that's okay because, you know, it is what it is. But I did learn, and I have learned over the 5 years, that it's a good way to know and keep up with what friends are doing and where they're going and where I'm not going, and then to keep, you know, reach out and find people that have moved away or, you know, don't work the same place you do anymore. And, you know, that just happened. I spoke about that, I don't know, sometime last week, reconnecting with my breast cancer navigator, and we were on the phone for 2 hours. It was like, and that was only just catching up with shortly after she left. So I think we need at least a weekend or maybe a week to catch up with everything else that's been going on. But it made me realize how much I missed her. And I always say how big a part of my recovery was Denise, my breast cancer navigator, because she was huge from the, you know, diagnosis through treatment. You know, she was the point person that if I had any questions, if I just needed to talk, she knew what to do, who to send you to. You know, it's just that she's just a wealth of information. And given the fact that she was a peer that had worked with her for so long and a friend, for me, you know, that just made it all that more comfortable, if that is at all possible. So that, you know, that's why I got off on that little tangent, because I mean, I've been following Denise, and she's been following me, and says that she loves these lives, and loves what I'm doing, which so far I'm just talking. But since I did get most talkative in high school, way back in the dark ages, I guess some things don't change. So, but what I've noticed over the 5 years, and this might just have been happening all along and I just didn't realize it, was that not only do you follow friends and people, but you tend to follow your interests and your hobbies, and I used to get kicked out of the library all the time. Anyway, I'm responding to my friend Donna, who says, "Oh, that's, no surprise, laughing out loud, most talkative." Yeah, I know. Um, but where was I now? So what you're following, you find that you follow pages that you have interest in, and you even can research, and obviously you have to be prudent with what you're reading on Facebook in terms of research, or anything else. People put some weird things out there, and people might say that about me. I mean, look at my hair. But um, I was speaking with someone at work the other day, and I said, um, the hospital where I had my breast reconstruction is now on Facebook. They post on Facebook. They're not, an advertisement that pops up. They're literally, posting things. I guess it's called on your timeline. See, I just not that familiar with all this stuff. And what he said was that the future of advertising is in social media. And I I just I get, it's like, well, when did that happen? And I guess I understand it. I can remember when we would go to my daughter's basketball games, and parents would wait in the lobby for the kids to come out of the locker room, and there might be 30 or 40 people, and you know 30 of them or 35 of them were like this, and it's like, doesn't anybody talk anymore? But I guess that's just progress and technology. And I've spoken of progress in technology through diagnostics and early detection of breast cancer. So I really shouldn't be surprised that social media and smartphones, I mean, how did we live before smartphones? But if I leave the house and I don't have my phone, or it's not charged enough, I have to have, the car charger. When, I was lucky. I was lucky to have a car that started and had enough gas in high school. I know, again, in the dark ages, to get home. I mean, when you had a flat tire, there was nothing. There was, you just did whatever you had to do. And now I don't even like to go out without my phone. I turn around and go back and get it, obviously, depending how far away I am. But so I guess you really need to step back and look at the bigger picture, and not only use the technology, but see where it fits into society, and how its development and its potential, what it means to you as an individual, and to communities and society. I mean, I know I have said you can pretty much get around the world in one day. Someday, 36 hours. And I have a patient actually to thank for that knowledge, because I had to, his daughter was in the Air Force, and there is a procedure that you follow when you have to get an active military member, home for a family emergency. And this gal was stationed in Japan, and um, you know, we had to get her. We had to contact her and get her, and it's quite an ordeal. Then they have to go to their superior and actually ask that it's been requested for emergency leave, and ask if they can be let go or dismissed. And then there was only one plane that flew out of there per day, but you had to take a bus to get to the airport, and then the flight from Japan was, a certain number of hours. So I guess I can't say you really can get around the world in one day, but if you can pretty much get around the world in 36 hours, then I really shouldn't be surprised that social media is such a huge leap in information technology and how you reach people, how you advertise a business, and how you develop a brand. I went to a conference, and one of the breakout sessions was on social media, and this gentleman was very, very funny. And he said, it's actually to your disadvantage if you don't have a timeline on social media. And I had to think about that for a minute, because it was like, well, why? And he went on to explain that employers, or potential employers, if you interview for a job, if they are interested in you, they will Google you and track back on your social media sites and see what you're saying, see, all read about you. And if there is a gap in that timeline, it could potentially be harmful to you in, career or job wise. And I mean, I know that if you're out for a period of time and can't find work or whatever, there, and depending on your profession, it looks bad. But I never realized that, people would go to those lengths and research you on social media. But it does make sense, because if they're going to hire you to work for their company, you are going to be an employee. Therefore, you will be representing that company, and depending on what you put out there on social media can make or break that. So it, it does make sense. And this, the hospital that I had my breast reconstruction is now, I said before, not only not only advertising, but they post. And I can remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's where I had surgery. It's called the uh, the breast, oh, the breast, the center. I'm sorry, the Center for Breast Reconstructive Surgery, and it is in Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana. I think this early time live is getting to me, but you went and traveled to have this surgeon operate on you, and because of her reputation. And I found her very coincidentally by her advertising in one of those Sky Mall magazines. Someone that I was in pool therapy with had taken her son back to school and saw it was actually a picture of her web page, and took it out of the magazine and brought it back and gave it to me. And that's how I found she is a microvascular plastic surgeon. And she was one of only, I don't know, 100 or 150 surgeons in the country that did this type of work. And it was groundbreaking in breast reconstruction. It wasn't implants. It didn't move muscles. It just moved skin and your subcutaneous tissue from one place to another. That's very, very, very simplified. But you know, it's now it is considered one of the standards of care for lymphedema, because in your subcutaneous tissue you have lymph nodes, and to be able to transplant lymph nodes and have them reconnect in a chain-like series to help lymphedema was the biggest leap that lymphedema has ever had. I mean, not much is known about it. Not a lot of people even understand it. And I didn't understand how much it was influencing my life until I had to have a second some nodes transplanted, because they still weren't happy with the results that I was getting. So believe it or not, I had it was called a cervical node, and the incision is in such a place that you can't even see it, because it was in like a natural groove of your neck. And what it did for me was, I was finally, after everything healed, I was pain-free. And I didn't realize how uncomfortable I was until I started noticing that I didn't have pain or heaviness. It's lymphedema pain is not, I didn't experience like a sharp stabbing pain. It was just this heaviness. And there's extra fluid in your arm that is unable to move the way it normally does through the lymph system, because the chain has been broken and it is difficult to repair. They don't regenerate, I guess that would be the word, easily. And it takes intervention, and what I do on a regular basis to keep my limb at the status that it is. And it's very hard to explain to people when they see mine. I think the definition of lymphedema is that the limb that's affected has to be 2 centimeters in circumference larger than the unaffected limb. And that is where my left forearm is exactly 2 centimeters. So depending on what I'm wearing and, what kind of day it is, the heat makes it worse, etc. You might not even notice the difference. But when you feel, this is very technical, the squishiness of your forearm, after I've worked for 12 hours, you can tell that the consistency of my forearms, they're different. And hey, Christina, I love your drawings. I just wanted to say that. But so lymphedema, if you if you develop lymphedema, secondary lymphedema after breast surgery, after radiation, these are all things that increase the likelihood that you might develop lymphedema. And it's so, it's not understood, and it's not been, because it's not understood, they're still studying it. And so to have this surgical procedure was really quite amazing, and I just came upon it very accidentally. I mean, who would have thought that for someone who, you know, you stand next to in a pool to do physical therapy would bring you something that's ripped out of, you know, the Sky Mall magazine. I just, I mean, what are the odds? And it just, it was life-changing, really. And so when you have that opportunity, when you find someone who is an expert in a field that is a very, very niche field, you travel to them. And I was fortunate enough that I had the opportunity to do that. It certainly, it's not easy, because you have to pay, you know, you have to transportation. And went for the first stage in New Orleans, we flew, and then you need lodging and food and, you know, hospital bills, and it adds up very, very quickly. But the cost of lymphedema adds up quickly if you don't, you know, if you don't intervene either. It, you know, you must do daily drainage, it's called, but it is a sort of massage that tries to join the chain of lymph nodes so that there is as much drainage as possible, because lymph fluid that sits in your tissues is very protein rich, and protein attracts bacteria. And so there is a greater likelihood that you can get cellulitis in your arm, which is an infection of, you know, of your interstitial tissue. And while that might not sound, oh, that's not so bad, but, you know, I can work it out in a medical hypothesis to the point where it can be downright deadly. And it's a side effect of breast cancer, axillary surgery, lymph node removal, radiation, and it is a chronic disease, and it can lead to a loss of income, a loss of profession. It can lead to psychological disorders of depression because of disfigurement, and compliance. There's a lot of issues with compliance because there are daily activities that you really must abide by in order to keep your arm at maintenance. Maintenance is always the goal. It's very rare that you are able to, your arm or the affected limb goes back to what it was before the documentation of that diagnosis. So you know, you have loss of dexterity, perhaps, in, you know, fine motor movement. I know I have intermittent tingling and neuropathy in in a few of my fingers if I'm having a particularly, I'm laughing at the dogs, a particularly bad day, if with heat, or I've done too much with that arm, and it just basically didn't like it, so it's rebelling. And it's all this kind of spectrum, where are you taking care of it? Are you exercising? Are you eating right? Are you doing the things you're supposed to be doing? And the function of your arm and the size and the feeling are all of the outcomes. Hello, Bridget. Going to the beach tomorrow. I'm going to work. Nah, I'll get you. So, okay, I keep getting waylaid here. But there is a direct cause and effect. So I understand when people say, and I have myself said it, lymphedema goes beyond, is worse than beating the breast cancer. And you might think, but the breast cancer could have killed you. Yeah, it could have killed me, but I'd be done. This is permanent. This is forever. And there's no guarantee that tomorrow it's not going to flare, even with compliance. And it just complicates your life to the point of annoyance and beyond. And the sleeves that you have to wear, the night sleeves that you have to wear, these things are not cheap. I really need to get a new night sleeve, because the two that I have are from the time of my initial diagnosis, and so that's shame on me. And but the night sleeve that I have costs $200. So you say, okay, $200, that's not bad, but they only last, or should last, a certain period of time. I can tell that they're not as, oh, we have a chorus with us. The dogs. I hope they're not going to start howling. But and then the sleeves that you wear during the day can be anywhere from $50 a sleeve to $100 a sleeve, and they really only last 3 to 6 months, because I know this, and I did not consciously intend to cause this issue, but I was wearing sleeves that were really old, and I didn't realize it at the time. And someone, I'm trying to think, someone gave me a sample sleeve, and so I put it on, and the difference in the compression and the way my arm felt was unbelievable. And then, because it had been so long that I was wearing the other sleeves, the next 2 or 3 days I was in pain to the point of, like, don't even talk to me, I don't want to leave the house, just let me wrap it up and close my eyes, because it was like having a throbbing migraine, and you couldn't get away from it. And that is, will you stop laughing over there? My daughter's laughing because the dog is trying to paw her because he wants to go somewhere. And I'm not going to say where because then he'll really go crazy. But I think I've gotten quite off a tangent here, and but that's okay because lymphedema is something that really needs to be discussed more, needs to be studied more. I can remember when I was first diagnosed, and then a year later, to the day, I had an exacerbation, and you can go to, or you should go to a lymphedema specialist and be evaluated before surgery if you are having any kind of breast surgery, because they will be able to measure your arm, see what it looks like, the characteristics. So should you develop issues post-op, etc., they will have something to compare it to. And after they do their decongestion manual drainage, I think that's a proper term, they wrap your arm, and it looks like you had major surgery on it or you broke your arm, and which adds to the weight and the heaviness. It's not fun, but you know, you'll have people say, "Oh, what happened to your arm?" And my lovely husband used to say, "Oh, she hit me with it and she broke her arm." Sometimes that was just easier than explaining, "Oh, it's lymphedema," because people look at you like, "What? What is that?" You know, and it gets very, very complicated. So if you are diagnosed with breast cancer, if you need surgery, this is one of the considerations that you have to research to know what you need done, and to the limit that will eliminate the disease and yet find that fine line between causing long-term side effects. And I don't know how I got to that from Facebook and social media, but actually I follow several sites on Facebook that are lymphedema sites and are cancer sites. So it isn't really such a leap, and that's what I mean. You know, all of a sudden you go from following people to following issues that are occurring in your life. And so are you choosing them, or are they coming up onto your wall or timeline? I don't know which one. Because of things that you look at. I can't tell you, but it's you know, it's out there. So if you put anything on social media, it's out there. So you have to be really, really careful with what you say. The old joke about, you know, using your workplace email for inappropriate conversations, etc., that you can get fired over? Yeah. Well, social media has become the same circumstance. You have to be very careful with what you put out there, because once it's out there, it's always out there. And you can't take it back. So that is where I'm going to stop my rant for tonight. I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's almost 9:45. It's like going to bed really early for me tonight. So I am Cathy Novicky for Champions Over Cancer, and I am going to finish this live and say that I hope everyone is home and tucked in and well and safe. And I am working tomorrow, as I have previously stated. I'll be up at 4 if anyone needs to check in, or I could check in with you and wake you up. Um, but so I'll be a little later tomorrow night, and hopefully look not as bedraggled as I usually do, and a little makeup and things like that. So for Champions Over Cancer, I will say good night. I will talk to you tomorrow for day 57 of 90-day Facebook Live. And I am still going and going and going. So good night and peace.